Breaking news from the incredibly chill city of Portland, Oregon. Our Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, is suing to block Trump from deploying troops here. About an hour ago, Maxine Bernstein of The Oregonian put out a piece saying that Rayfield and the state have filed a lawsuit to block Donald Trump from deploying the National Guard to Portland or anywhere else in our state. This comes less than a day after Trump authorized federal troops to protect what he dubbed war-ravaged Portland. Now, I made a video on my backup TikTok account talking about the fact that Trump is already walking back a bunch of his rhetoric around Portland, no longer saying that he's definitely going to be trying to put troops here, instead saying like, well, we're going to make a decision in the coming days. And also, oh, maybe what I'm seeing on TV, maybe what my advisors are telling me is not what's actually happening here. Real quick before I discuss this lawsuit, I think it's important to understand when we are looking at the defense of democracy, so much of it happens on a local and state level. I have never been more pleased to vote for a state level official in Oregon than Dan Rayfield. Dan Rayfield has been ready to go from day one. He has joined with AGs from other states to consistently sue the regime and protect the rights, the funding of Oregonians. It is attorneys general, secretaries of state, governors all over this country who are aggressively defending the rule of law that are holding the line. It is so important that we focus not only on national elections, but that we also understand who represents us in our cities and our states can make all of the difference. And seriously, Dan is one of those AGs who is making all of the difference. So just a little bit ago, Dan Rayfield and Governor Tina Kotek and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson had a press conference where they said that any attempt to send military troops to any Oregon city would be an infringement of state and local sovereignty and a violation of federal law. And they are filing a lawsuit to stop it. Now, I've been very critical of Governor Tina Kotek. Oregon has a long history of governors who are tepid, rather disappointing, and maybe we can turn that around in the future. But in this instance, Governor Kotek was on a phone call with Trump yesterday in which she told him what you are hearing from your advisors, what you're seeing on TV. And I think from Trump's description that he's watching 2020 footage from the BLM protests in downtown Portland, because he kept saying that ICE facilities, there's just one in Portland, and federal buildings were under attack and the city was on fire. There are no federal buildings under attack here. There's no fires here. There's a shit ton of green gas and tear gas being pumped into the neighborhood around the ICE facility, but it's all the American Gestapo known as ICE who is doing that. In fact, doing so much of it that the elementary school located next door to the ICE building had to move because it wasn't safe for their students. The playground was littered with tear gas residue and pepper balls that had not exploded. So anyway, in this phone conversation yesterday, Tina Kotek was like, hey, President Trump, what you think is happening here is not actually what's going down, and we don't need you here. Also, mad props to our mayor, Keith Wilson, who very clearly articulated, this is an American city. This is not a military target. We don't need the military here. This echoes the sentiment of the American people who are overwhelmingly opposed to having troops positioned in our cities. It is a blatant authoritarian move, a blatant attempt to chill dissent, to make people afraid to exercise their First Amendment rights, and it is prepping the ground to intimidate voters in the midterms. And we're not fucking standing for it. The American people are not going to stand for a military occupation by our own fellow Americans against us. Like this is not what we do in this country. And the American people are deeply opposed. So I just wanted to point out, Keith Wilson, thank you for phrasing it that way, because that's such an accurate depiction of what's happening. Trump is treating American citizens, cities full of American people, as if they were military targets. So again, in this lawsuit that AG Rayfield filed today, it says the facts cannot justify this overreach, meaning an attempt to put federal agents or federal troops in our city or anywhere in our state. The filing notes that the protests outside of the ICE facility on Macadam Avenue typically draw fewer than 30 people. The defendants' heavy-handed deployment of troops threatens to escalate tensions and stoke unrest. Attorney General Rayfield went on to say that in America, we don't use the United States military against our own citizens. Tina Kotek said that she was disturbed that the Trump regime was not listening to the people of the state. This is not necessary, it is unlawful, and it will make Oregonians less safe, the governor said. The suit itself alleges that Trump's actions violate the 10th Amendment's guarantee that police power, including ensuring safety at protests and deterring violent crimes, resides with the state and not the federal government. All y'all Republicans, the party of small government, the party of don't tread on me, the party of states' rights, why is it that you are not freaking the fuck out about the federal government trampling the rights of our states? This is a clear violation of all of the things we've heard y'all say are most important to you: the Constitution, states' rights, small government, and fiscal responsibility. This is costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. Every time he pulls this shit, there is a huge bill for the taxpayer. Let's make it really clear here. Donald Trump wants to spend millions and millions of taxpayer dollars disrespecting our service members, using them as political pawns, placing them in Portland, Oregon to intimidate American citizens as a direct infringement of states' rights when the governor, the mayor, the attorney general are saying, we don't want you here. This is not necessary. It is illegal. And Trump is doing that because there are fewer than 30 people, like kids who are blowing bubbles and waving signs and shouting protest poetry into a megaphone. Please understand how extreme and abnormal this is. Donald Trump wants to put military members, armed vehicles in our city because of 24 kids with signs and bubbles. Is this really the kind of country that we want to live in? Why on earth should this be happening here? What the hell is going on? Every American should be saying, what the hell is going on? Why are we tolerating this? Could you imagine if Joe Biden had said, oh, here is a city with a Republican governor and a Republican mayor, and there's like 24 MAGA hats with Let's Go Brandon t-shirts, so I'm going to spend millions of dollars sending the National Guard into that city. Could you imagine the reaction? Our only reaction to this kind of ridiculousness, this kind of extreme un-American behavior by Donald Trump and his regime, should be vigorous, immediate outrage and actions taken by our elected officials, like the action that Attorney General Rayfield has taken today, filing suit. And it's not just the Oregon governor and AG that are engaging immediately. The ACLU of Oregon, the Urban League of Oregon, statewide union groups, other grassroots organizations are all organizing. There's a rally being held today, no federal forces in Portland. Our elected officials on a state and local level need to defend us, and then we need to vigorously condemn these actions. What Trump is trying to do would be laughable, sending military force into an American city, making American citizens targets of the American military because a couple of dozen kids are protesting an ICE facility. It would be laughable if it weren't so completely insane and dangerous. The good news here is that what Trump is trying to do is incredibly unpopular with the American people, and that time and time again, when we all push back against this, like in LA, in DC, in Chicago, that Trump pulls out, he backs off, he chickens out. We must remember that what is most important now is not really what Trump does, it is how we choose to react. It is our response that matters in this moment in time. When we continue to hold the line, when we push back, when our elected officials have our back, Trump will back down. This is a pivotal moment in Trump's authoritarian escalation. He's incredibly vulnerable. He's deeply unpopular. There are massive cracks in the regime. There is a growing mass movement against him. If you're not already signed up for No Kings on October 18th, go find the location near you. There's more than 2,000 registered already. We are at a pivotal moment where the tide is turning. Mass resistance is building. The American people are not standing for this. I don't know about y'all, but Portland, Oregon sure as fuck is not going to tolerate fascism in our city and in our country. We must continue to have strategic, organized, nonviolent resistance that undermines the regime, that points out to the rest of America and to the entire world how extreme Trump is, how nonsensical his actions are, and how we are regular, ordinary, law-abiding American citizens. And the unhinged actions of the regime are a direct threat to our democracy and our rights.